everyone. It is a late evening, but I'm filming tonight to bring you a video. I am going to update you guys on how my goals are going so far this year. It is now the middle of October. Today is actually October the 15th. So I thought now would be a good time to assess where I'm at and see what needs to be done before the end of the year. So I have my handy dandy journal here, and I will open it up to my goal section and we will just go through them. All right. So goal number one. Goal number one was that I want to read 105 books in 2025. Now, I am very happy to say that I am on target right now. I have so far read, including the ones I read in October here, I have read 88 books so far this year. And that compares to last year at this time, I had only read 82. So I'm doing better this year, which is good because I'm shooting for 5 more than I did last year. And if I look at my comparison of the number of books read each month compared to last year, other than May, July, and August, I have consistently been reading, and I guess October as well by this point in October, but I have been consistently reading more books per month this year than I did last year. So that's kind of nice. My best month last year was in May. I read 13 books. This year it was in January. I read 12. So that's a really good one. I'm very happy right now. What I calculated at the end of September when I went through my goals is that I had 84 at the time, so I needed 21 more books. So now I've read 4 more since then, but I need to read approximately 7 per month. So that's fun. Goal number 2, I wanted to join a Patreon and participate in a book club, and I wanted to read 5 book club books. So I have joined a membership. I joined Kayla from Books and Lala, her membership as a bestie, and I'll put her link down in the description below. And I've been really enjoying that. And I have now read, I've read 6 book club books so far, but one of them was a DNF. But even with that DNF, if I take that out, I had read about half of it. If I take that one out, I have so far read 5 book club books, which is exciting. Those ones were Water Moon by Samantha Soto Yambao, Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales by Heather Fawcett. Then my DNF was All the Water in the World. I also read You Are Fatally Invited by Sandy Pliego. Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Maria Griffin. And With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. And I do have a couple more that I'm hoping to read for the end of the year here for a couple of other book clubs as well. So that's been a grand success so far. I think I succeeded in that goal already, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. Next goal, I wanted to read at least 12 translated books. So I am currently sitting at 8. I have read books, let me just see here. I have read books, 1 French, 1 Icelandic, 5 Japanese, and 1 Korean so far in that 8. I read The Devotion of Suspect X by Kiko Higashino. I read The Full Moon Coffee Shop by Mei Mochizuki. Days at the Murasaki Bookshop by Satoshi Yegasawa. What I Know About You by Eric Chakur. That one I did DNF it, but I was 50% into it, so I count that as having read a good portion of it. So I'll count it for the 12 books. We'll Prescribe You a Cat by Seo Ishida. How to Treat Magical Beasts, Volume 1 by Kazuya. That was a manga. Welcome to the Hainam Dong Bookshop by Huang Bo Rim. And Under the Glacier by Helder Laxness. So that's the ones I've read so far. So I need to read 4 more to hit my goal, but I think I'm going to be able to do it because I'm currently reading The Phantom of the Opera, which was originally translated from French. So that's 1. I need to read for one of my challenge books, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson, which is translated from Swedish, I believe. Swedish or Norwegian, I can't remember, but one of those 2. And then I also have, I'll have I Am a Cat by, where's that one? I'll put it up on the screen. But I Am a Cat, I have to read that one. That's a Japanese translation. And then for my fourth one, I had figured I had this one here that I just happen to have sitting here, Macbeth by Jo Nesbø, and this one is translated from Norwegian. So I have 4 planned that are translated, so I think I will hit my goal this year, which is exciting because last year I didn't. The next goal on my list was to read more books by authors of color. And this year I decided to just set a random goal so that I could track it, and then I'll try and increase it some next year. But my goal was to read 20% books by authors of color. And so far at the end of September, I was sitting at 21%. So I'm happy with that so far. I did get up to 24% at one point, but that's kind of where I've been sitting, is in that 21 to 24% area with reading books by authors of color. What it has done for me this year is it has made me focus a lot more on what books I'm reading and whether I'm reading books by authors of color. So then next year I can try and increase that percentage even more and read more books by authors of color. So far, as long as I keep where with the average that I'm doing, I should be okay on that goal. Next one is to continue series and finish trilogies. Now, my plan was I wanted to finish at least 2 trilogies because I'm terrible about not finishing trilogies, or I was anyway. And I wanted to continue read at least 22 continued series books. So what I ended up doing so far is I have completed 3 trilogies. I managed to finish the Emily Wilde trilogy by Heather Fawcett. Loved it. Gave each book 5 stars. I just finished the Bloodsworn trilogy by John Gwynne, and I gave each of those ones 5 stars. Absolutely loved that whole series. And the other one that I finished was the Robin Hood trilogy by Stephen Lawhead that I had been reading. And I really, really enjoyed that one as well. And it is one of my favorite series as well. I gave the second book 5 stars and really loved it, the whole thing. But that second one was kind of my favorite. So I have succeeded in that goal because I was trying to finish at least 2 trilogies, and I've finished 3 so far. However, I have continued quite a few series so far. Right now, I have read 14 continued series books. So I have 6, 7, 8 left that I need to read before the end of the year. And I probably will get to that, just judging by the way things are going, but I'll have to kind of pay more attention to it. But my biggest problem is not just the continuation of series. I have just also discovered, and I'll put it up on the screen here, my series reads so far. So last year I read 30 series books. This year I've read 42. Last year I continued, 11 of them were from continued series. This year I have started 28 new series. This is a problem. I have been reading a lot of first books in series. I have added 28 new series to my series tracker. I have, however, DNF'd 2 of them, I believe. 2 series that I read the first book and then decided not to continue. So technically then that'd be 26 new series that I've added, which doesn't make it any better. That is still a terrible number. So I am definitely going to have to plan next year. I'm going to set a goal to work on really continuing series and rather than starting new ones all the time. I think one of the goals that I'm going to try and set for next year is to possibly pick a series and try and read 5 or 6 books in that series throughout the year so that I am focusing on completing or getting close to completing a series instead of just reading first books in series, which obviously is a problem. So we'll be revisiting this goal for next year because I obviously have issues. But so far for series continued, I have done 14 books, which means I have a few more to go. I have 8 more books to go in series, and I'm sure I probably will hit those. Oscar is here to help me, but He has something to say. Okay. Now that I have gotten my little purr monster here helping me out, and I have made some more room on my camera. All right, so that's the whole series issue that I'm having, but we'll revisit that for next year because that is kind of a problem. The next goal was to read at least 8 short story collections. Now, on this one, I'm actually doing pretty good. So far, I have read 6, and that includes one that was DNF, but I DNF'd it at 158 pages. So I'm really counting it as read for the purpose of this particular goal, because that was a lot of the book. I read over half of it. So I did read one called Mystery Cats 3, which was mysteries involving cats in some way. I read Peacocks of Instagram, which was by Deepa Rajagopalan. I read Man Descending by Guy Vanderhaeg. Stories of Suspense, which was just some collected stories. It's a very old book, but it had some classics in it. I read The Lottery Winner by Mary Higgins Clark. And I read The Ghost Stories of Edith Wharton, which is the one that I DNF'd at 158 pages. So I have to read 2 more yet this year. Right now, I'm in the process of reading one called Canadian Mystery Stories, which is pretty interesting. I'm enjoying it. It was put out in, I think, the 70s or something like that. So it's kind of classic stories. But so far, I've been enjoying most of them. And I also am in the process of reading one called French Short Stories for Beginners, because I'm studying French this year. And I've been starting that one to learn how to read in French. So that one will count towards my short stories as well if I finish it here before the end of the year. So that's actually looking like it's not going to be too bad a goal. The next goal I had was that my sisters and I were going to start a Brandon Sanderson Cosmere buddy read. Now, we took the order that we're going to read the Cosmere books in from Sylvia from Library Unbounded. And I'll put a link to her video about it below. But so far, in April, we read the first Mistborn book, and that is as far as we've gotten so far. But my sister and I are hoping to get to the second Mistborn book before the end of the year, and then we'll try and focus a little bit better next year on that particular goal. Then we get to the goal that I am doing the most poorly on, and that is reading nonfiction. Now, I had set this goal at 23 books because that's what I read last year. And I thought, you know what? If I read 23 last year, why wouldn't I be able to read 23 this year? Well, if you look at the screen, I have read 7 so far this year. When I compare that to last year, if you look at the nonfiction books per month, you will see that I was reading a lot more nonfiction books last year than this year. I actually read 5 in February last year, which is ridiculous. But yes, I read a lot more nonfiction last year than this year. So if I am going to actually make this goal, I need to read 16 more nonfiction books before the end of the year. The chances of that happening are slim to nil. I do have on the plans, I have an archaeology one that I need to read for a vlog I'm doing. I have, I'm most of the way through, I'm like 73% through Dan Jones' Power and Thrones. So I should finish that one this year. I'm listening to his audiobook of it because he reads the audiobook and it's really awesome. I also have a Viking history book that I'm reading right now and one about Viking warfare that I'm reading right now. And I have a book about drawing with colored pencils that I'm reading right now. So I do have 5 other ones on the go or coming up shortly, but I'm not going to read 16 nonfiction before the end of the year. It's already mid-October. So I will have to revisit this one next year and decide maybe somewhere in between what I end up with this year and what I get next year for my goal. But that one will need some revision. I don't know why this year I haven't been reading as much nonfiction. It's because normally I do read a lot of nonfiction. I mean, I did read some really big ones. Like in February, I read one that was like over 600 pages. And so that makes a difference too, but not enough of a difference to make that big change from last year to this year. So I just need to get my butt in gear next year and read more nonfiction. So the next goal is one that I'm doing well at, which is good. I'll put it up on the screen here. And that is that I am trying to read at least 3,000 pages per month. And I want to end the year with an average of 3,000 pages. So if I don't hit 3,000 pages each month, at least as long as my average is 3,000, I'll be happy. So you can see on the screen here, I've got my number of pages that I read each month for last year and this year. And then I'll put up, here's a chart showing the same thing. So the last one there is the average, and that I didn't include October in my average because I'm only halfway through October right now, but so far I'm at 1,908 words this October already, so it's looking good. So I, again, other than that middle area of like May, June, July, I am fairly consistently reading more pages this year than I did last year as well, which is a good thing. I am quite happy with it so far. My average is currently sitting at 3,381. So I do have some wiggle room if I get any months where I have less reading. I did have a bit of a slump in the middle of the summer, but I seem to be picking up my pace again now. So I'm quite happy with that. Then my final goal page in my book here is just one where I have kind of just some rough percentage goals of things that I'm trying to hit, but it's not something that I am tracking every month. It's something that I'm looking at quarterly. So I did a check-in in September on this one. And that, so each of these goals is just kind of like just a light goal. It's not something that I'm seriously worrying about or anything. But I wanted to keep my library books to owned books reading somewhere around no more than 60-40 difference. I was kind of hoping for, kind of that 50-50 where I'm reading half from my shelves and half from the library. So so far at the end of September, I was sitting at 53% from the library and 46% owned. So I'm within that range. So I'm quite happy with that. I wanted to make sure that I was reading at least 20% books with LGBTQ plus representation, and I am at 33%. And that's without me like doing a whole bunch of trying to specifically look for books. So I'm already at 33%, sitting at 33% without putting a whole bunch of thought into it. So I'm quite happy with that. And I'm sure that number will increase as I start reading more and more newer books as well. Because as you know, like with my Battle of the Book Jar and those sorts of things, I'm reading a lot of older books, and there wasn't the representation in those older books that there is now. So as I move from those older books on my shelves and start reading more of the newer books on my shelves, that number will continue to climb. I wanted to keep my new authors to previously read authors somewhere around where I was at least 50% new authors, because I do tend to reread a lot of things and find favorite authors and then just read everything of theirs and not look for other authors to read. So, but this year I'm doing really well. I have 73% new authors. The only problem is that means that I'm not reading continued books in series, because that would be then a book that would be from a previously read author. So I need to maybe work next year with doing the series thing. I need to bring that number down a little bit towards 50%, more so than that 73% new authors. And then my rereads, I had as a rough goal that I wanted to keep them less than 25%, because in the past I have definitely been a chronic rereader, and my rereads this year are only at 7%. So I haven't been doing a ton of rereading, which fits for the goal and is actually a fairly good thing. I could do a little more rereading if I wanted to. So then I just wanted to, for fun, just let you know some other just little stats and a couple of superlatives that I came up with. So what's been my best book so far this year? Well, I'm not going to give you just one, because I have 3 that are vying for the top position right now that I can think of just off the top of my head. Actually, 4 that are vying for the top position right now. So one of them is A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. I read that one in September and just absolutely loved it. It's his newest one in the Anna and Din series. The other one is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. That's the first one in his Bloodsworn trilogy. I read that one in February. Absolutely loved it. Read the other 2 books in the series, absolutely loved them. But that first one, I think, is still my favorite of the series. I read in January, I believe, The Lost Man by Jane Harper, which I absolutely loved. That was such a good book. It was definitely a 5-star. Probably my favorite Jane Harper, and as everybody knows, I love Jane Harper's writing. So that one is definitely vying for the top spot. And then the other one is Scarlet by Stephen Lawhead. That's the second book in his Hood trilogy. And I read the second and third books this year and really, really enjoyed the whole trilogy. But that second one just, it was so good. It holds a special place in my heart. So that's the 4 that are kind of right now vying for that top position. So we'll see what the end of the year shakes out and what else I read this year that might end up pushing around in that top position. So then I was going to tell you the prettiest book that I've read so far this year. And I have the same one for the prettiest cover and some of the prettiest writing. And that is Toward Eternity by Anton Hur. This one I read last month, and just like this cover is just so gorgeous. I absolutely love the cover, and the writing is absolutely beautiful. If you watch back, I did a vlog, I'll link it below, where I was trying to read for 24 hours in 48 hours, and I was reading this book, and I read some snippets of it, and the writing is just so beautiful. It's a gorgeous book. The longest book that I've read so far this year was 642 pages, and that was The Arctic Grail by Pierre Berton. This was a nonfiction. I read it in February for Polarathon, and I actually am surprised that I haven't surpassed that one. I thought that some of the big fantasies I was reading would be longer, but it turned out that 642 pages is still holding as my longest book so far. The shortest book that I read this year has been one called Classic Aircraft by Walter J. Boyne. And that one is at 96 pages. And that one is just a kind of a coffee table book about classic aircraft that I read for my Battle of the Book Jar in one of the earlier episodes. And it was a very fun, nostalgic read. And it was only 96 pages. So far, my most read genre has been mystery, which is no surprise to anybody, including me. And then coming in second is fantasy, and coming in third is historical. And that's actually a little bit of a surprise for me, because normally historical would be my next one. But I've been reading a ton of fantasy this year and really enjoying it. And the final one that I wanted to tell you is that I have read from authors from 13 different countries so far this year. So that's kind of fun. I started tracking that last year just to see what countries I was reading from. And I think next year I'm going to actually set a goal where I try to read from a certain number of countries over the course of the year. And then I can mark them off on a map and everything. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be a super fun one as well. And I'll probably do some vlogs next year where I read from different countries for fun. So that is my goal checkup right now. So as you can see, I have some work to do. Some goals I'm doing well on, other ones I am not so much. So I have some work to do in the next 2.5 months, but I will get at it and work hard and see if I can hit some of these goals. I know that like that nonfiction one, it's just not going to happen. I'd have to read only nonfiction for the rest of the year. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know down in the comments if you track your reading and what kinds of things you like to track and how you're doing on your goals for the year. Are you scrambling coming into the end of the year, or are things looking up? So let me know that down in the comments, and give me a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys soon on another video. Bye.